Hello, and welcome to Better Data in 5. In this episode, we're looking at formative data for classroom instruction, and this is part A of a two-part video. So, education data, there's a lot of it. We have state data like report cards, local data like discipline data, parent surveys, absentee information, student and teacher demographics, and then classroom data. And we're really going to be focusing on formative assessments today. Why focus on formative assessments? Well, because they can really help student learning and achievement. You may or may not be familiar with John Hattie's work. He has done all sorts of analyses, particularly meta-analysis on educational research, and he has compiled a myriad of influences on student learning and achievement. This is one visualization or summarization of some of his work. In this pretty arch, we categorize influences on achievement in 4 different ways. So that scary red, those are reverse effects, things that actually harm student achievement. Yellow, developmental effects. So things that would just happen because students got older. That nice green zone, that's where teachers start to help students. So those are typical teacher effects. That brings us from an effective point 2 to effective point 4. Point 4 is where John Hattie defines a typical year's worth of growth. So anything that gets you to point 4 is great, but we really want to go beyond that. In that blue zone, that's the zone of desired effect, and that's what can really accelerate student learning past a typical year's worth of growth. So we'll be talking about 2 different things in that blue zone: feedback and formative teacher evaluation. So starting with formative evaluations, these have an effect of 0.48, so beyond that 0.4 average. According to Hattie and Black and William, formative evaluation refers to any activity used as an assessment of learning progress before or during the learning process itself. Teachers should spend as much, if not more, time on formative assessments than they do on summative assessments. And when we say assessments, this could be a test or a quiz, but it might be an exit slip. It could be the rough draft of an essay or regular old classroom work and homework. All those assessments give us a chance for feedback. Actually grading or analyzing the assessment itself gives teachers feedback from students, and then teachers can give feedback to students. So, and feedback has a huge positive effect size of 0.7. According to Hattie and Timberly, feedback is one of the most powerful influences on student learning and achievement. Feedback on task, process, and self-regulation level is far more effective than generic or personal praise. Saying good job, not terribly helpful. Telling a student exactly how to attack fractions, that can be more helpful. 3 questions that teachers should keep in mind: where am I going, how am I going, and where to next. And that might refer to how a teacher is planning their lessons, or it could refer to how a specific student is utilizing or learning a skill. And then finally, for feedback to be really helpful for students, you want to have a climate where it's okay to be wrong, where we all realize that students are here to learn, and if students really learning and growing to their potential, they're going to make errors along the way. We've put together these 4 steps to potentially utilize and plan for formative assessments and analyzing that data. You don't have to use these 4 steps. It's one way of planning your formative assessments. Step 1, creating your assessment. Step 2, pretest. 3, analyze often. And then 4, next steps. Today, we're going to focus on creating your assessments. We'll get to those other steps in the next video. So, creating your assessments. Start with the end in mind. What really is the focus of the lesson? Try to be specific. Your focus should have a limited number of specific objectives for specific reasons. For many teachers, those are based on the standards. What does a student have to do to show you that they've mastered part of a standard? Then think about what level of understanding are you looking for in your assessment. Sometimes we want surface level background information. That's totally fine. But we want to make sure that we're looking for a deep level of knowledge, a deep thinking in at least some of our assessments as we're going through and seeing how students are doing. As you're creating the assessment, think about how you're going to grade it as well. For that surface level information, maybe it can be auto-graded, or maybe students can grade their own work. When it comes to more complex work, you still might be able to use students. If you coach students to help with peer evaluations, that can have a positive effect for the student doing the evaluation and the student getting that feedback. And if you're nervous about that, remember, not everything has to go in the gradebook. Next, is your assessment unique to you and your class, or is it a common assessment? Both can be appropriate. One nice thing about common assessments are that they can help make sure that your expectations are really aligned with other teachers or the state or national norms. And we really want you to have shorter assessments more often. And there's a bunch of reasons why. They reduce negative effects of test anxiety on students. The actual retrieval practice that students get from a quiz in class can help them remember things more in a more long-term way. And these should be low stakes. They may or may not actually go into the gradebook as a grade. Frequent quizzes make it easier for you, the teacher, to react to student needs. And that's one of the biggest reasons we want those frequent assessments. That's all we'll be talking about in this video, but we'll continue with that 4-step process in our next video. We also want to know what other topics should we cover and what are the needs for your district. This is from SST 16's data team, including Julie Bays, Kate Silver, and I'm Jenny Lang. If you would like a copy of this slide deck, please just go over to that QR code on the right side of the page. Thanks for listening.